have to sneeze in order to receive a blessing. So we're going to do a song for you, hoping to set up as an opening act for Reverend Kirk's message. And this is a mighty fine message in this song. If you could be me and I could be you for just an hour, if we could find a way to get inside each other's mind, if you could see you through my eyes instead of your ego, I believe you'd be surprised to see what I see. So walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes. If we could spend the day throwing stones at one another, 'cause I don't think or wear my hair the way you do. I might be common folk, but I am your sister. And if you strike out at me, don't you know that you're hurting you? Now there are people on reservations and in the ghetto, brothers and sisters, you know, without the grace of God, there could go you and I. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Before you criticize or accuse, walk a mile in my shoes. What do you think about that, Danny? Now there are some people, reservations and in the ghetto, and brother there, but the grace of God go you and I. If I only had the wings of a little angel, I'd go on top of the mountain and I would cry. I would say, just walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Before you accuse, criticize or abuse, or walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Before you criticize, accuse or abuse, you gotta walk. Why don't you walk? Just try and walk. Before you criticize, abuse, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes. Thank you.
Unity is a positive and practical approach to spiritual living based on the teachings of Jesus and the power of prayer. It's learning the practical way to find God living in your own heart. Every one of us is what you discover when you start practicing these teachings. We believe there is truth and beauty in every spiritual tradition, that we honor the many paths to the one God. Wherever you are on your journey of faith, you are always welcome here. Our purpose at Unity on the North Shore is to create a safe space where people are empowered to take risk and live their deepest truth. If this is your first Sunday, we extend a loving welcome. Many of us here were surprised to learn that there was a spiritual community that thought and believed the same things we did. And in Evanston, felt like coming home. We hope your experience this morning is powerful and that you'll return. I invite everyone now to stand and sing our group song, I Got the Joy.
I got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart, down in my heart, down in my heart. I got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart, down in my heart to stay. I got the peace that passes understanding down in my heart, down in my heart, down in my heart. I got the peace that passes understanding down in my heart, down in my heart to stay. I got the love of Spirit down in my heart, down in my heart, down in my heart. I got the love of Spirit down in my heart, down in my heart to stay. I got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart, down in my heart, down in my heart. I got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart, down in my heart to stay. Wow, you're good.
Good morning. Thank you all. Thank you, Danny and Bobby, too.
And what's your name?
I'm good. I'm good. So I'm Agnes Lachlan, your prayer chaplain today. I will be available after the service at the prayer candle in the back. For those of you online, you are invited to place your prayer in requests in the chat box. And those in the sanctuary can also put prayer requests in the back of the room. So please join me in reading as I read the daily word. And the daily word for today is grace. Through divine grace, I am abundantly blessed in every way. Grace is an awareness that wherever I am, God is. It is my reminder to let God be God in me. Grace assures me that I am never alone in my journey through life, so that no matter what I do or fail to do, I am unconditionally loved and accepted at the level of spirit. Grace touches every area of my life. In a lonely moment, grace is the overwhelming awareness that I am loved. It is the surprising way through a challenge I considered unsolvable. It is my whole body suddenly glowing with the power of divine life, even as I experience a health challenge. These are just some of the many ways I experience grace. Grace needs not be, nor can it be, earned. It is a divine gift, available at every moment. As I open my heart to divine grace, I am filled with indescribable peace. And the scripture, grace be with all of you. Hebrews 13:25. Let's just take a moment now to center ourselves in our heart space. Rest in that silence, holding in prayer yourself and your loved ones. Take a few slow, easy breaths. Now let us hold in prayer all who are suffering worldwide. And affirm the presence of God's love, grace, and guidance in every person and every human condition. And so it is. Amen. And now we'll get back to our beautiful musicians.
We are connected by the heart. Where do you end and where do I start? Anything you pray for, I hear it on your way. I am here to listen to anything that you say. Your prayer is my prayer too. Your prayer is my prayer too. Whatever you feel, I feel too. You're a part of me and I'm a part of you. Your prayer is my prayer too. My prayer too. I hear the worries that are in your way. There's nothing I can do to take your pain away, but I'll help you to connect with the voice that's deep inside. Let angels wrap their love around you. Let spirit be your guide. 'Cause your prayer is my prayer too. Your prayer is my prayer too. Whatever you feel, I feel too. You're a part of me and I'm a part of you. And your prayer is my prayer too. My prayer too. There's nothing that I can do to take all your pain away. But I'll help you reconnect with the voice that's deep inside. Let angels wrap you in their love, and let spirit be your guide. Your prayer is my prayer too. Your prayer is my prayer too. Whatever you feel, I feel too. You're a part of me and I'm a part of you. Your prayer is my prayer too. My prayer too. My prayer too. I'm a part of you.
Bobby, would you stay up there just a second? One of our objectives here is to encourage people to take risks and live their deepest truth. And as I'm sitting there, I'm realizing that we have beautiful demonstrators of the message that I'm wanting to give today. So if you are up for it, could I interview y'all just for a couple of minutes?
No.
That's an okay answer, it really is. Yeah, I can go with what I got here. But I just, oh my gosh, put a pin in this and trust me, we'll get to it. But one of the principles that we're really looking to embody in this series about getting to know each other and being able to see more deeply and see from the heart, I'm borrowing this from David Brooks, who suggests that accompaniment is a beautiful way to sort of step into that seeing from the heart. And what I'm realizing is that the two of you do that every single time you're together. You do that every time, well, regardless, in any sort of setting where you're working with other musicians, that there's a level of accompanying that has to happen for you to be successful. So I just wondered if I could talk to you about what that's like for you. Because clearly you're in very different positions, right? Bobby is the vocalist, is sort of the feature, and Danny, and tell me if this is right, tends to be the accompanist, tends to be more about supporting the feature thing. But what I notice, especially in listening to Danny over these years, is that there are ways in which you shine, so that there's a trade-off. There's Danny has a starring role when he does the little solos in the middle, and so I'm just curious as to how do you guys navigate that, working together or with other musicians? What is that like for you?
Well, the key word is accompany. So if you're on the road with somebody, you're walking a path with somebody, you're accompanying them, right? You're going along with them. It's kind of like the same thing. Now, I must say that it's an honor and a pleasure and a joy to have someone like Danny, because he's so sensitive that I can take these liberties, and I know that he's going to be right along there with me. It's like we're holding hands as we're going down this similar road. I also must say that that doesn't happen with everyone. It's just such a freedom that I have with someone like Danny, because I can do whatever I want to do and know that he's going to follow me. We kind of have an idea. We do rehearse. It's not like it just happens automatically, but he just brings this wonderful sensibility to whatever I'm doing, and sometimes it's not even the way we rehearsed it.
Yeah, I would say there's a trust that comes from competency and fluency. And through all of the individual training and the training we've done with others over the years, we're very fluent in the language of music. And so we're able to trust each other a lot. And I kind of think it's like, a little child is not fluent in English, so they don't actually have a lot of tools to like create stuff, but they do have to become fluent, they have to take risks. They have to try to say words, try to say phrases, and so Bobby and I are both music educators too. I think that's a big thing, is instilling in younger musicians, like, don't be afraid to make the big mistake. Just like play the note, sing the note, and see what happens. And then that's how you develop the trust to accompany each other.
And as an educator, I always tell my students, if you can apply it to your singing or your music, you can apply it to your life.
Yes. Yeah.
So therefore, if I'm open and I'm free and I'm able to trust, that's a word we see a lot in New Thought, isn't it? Trust. Not only trust the people that you're with, but trust that instinct, that talent that's within you, that inspiration that comes right there on the spot. And know that it's going to be there.
You're reassuring me now for doing this, right? Okay, thank you.
Then that trust really becomes a habit.
Yeah.
Becomes a what? Becomes
a habit.
A habit.
A habit.
A
You
habit.
know, I don't get up here and wonder if my voice is going to work. I know that it's going to work. I know it's the gift. I depend on the gift. I rely on the gift. I praise the gift. I don't diminish the gift. I don't say, ooh, this voice, this old thing. No, I say, oh, yes, this is what I get, the joy in it. I love this. And hopefully what you hear is the love of our talents and the love and the joy that we have the opportunity to share it with the world. Because that's the other thing that I tell my students. The goal of a performer, number one, is to share. And there you have it.
So can I ask one thing now, moving back to kind of practical things? Thank you. I'm gonna keep going though. So in terms of when you're just starting out, I mean, you guys now have been working together here, at least at Unity, for 3 years, 4 years, something like that. When you first think back to like when you first were encountering each other, like what happens to be able to? I certainly didn't do a lot to make sure that you understood each other's backgrounds and knew kind of the competency and that you were going to be. So how did you establish that? Like what happens in getting to know and establishing sort of a good accompanying relationship? What are like the initial steps that you would suggest, or if you were working with a new musician?
I think kind of what I was saying is like, I don't think we maybe talked on the phone before the first time we performed here together, but I just showed up and Bobby had some sheet music for me, or maybe she sent me the songs, and we just like, it's again the just being fluent in the language of music. I mean, it's just like when you meet a new person. If you're confident in yourself, if you're grounded in your personality, if you trust who you are, you believe the things you say, it's going to be easier to get to being able to have a rapport with someone and be vulnerable with somebody and create a space with someone. If you don't trust yourself, if you aren't fluent in English, and you don't believe the things you're saying, we are never going to be able to open up with somebody and take risks with somebody. And it's like, apply that directly to music. It's like I imagine we rehearsed and we probably played half of a song, and in my mind it was like, okay, this is going to be great, wherever it goes. And then of course, the musical relationships, like Bobby and I have a several-year musical relationship now, so the trust is even stronger. We can take even more risks. But even with, I'm sure Bobby can agree with this, I play with new people, and right away I can get a sense of their ability level. I played with a band last night, not very good. So I was like, okay, my role changes. I'm a rock here. I'm gonna just play exactly what they need to hear to get through the songs. Whereas with Bobby, it's like, I know I could throw 17 curveballs and she'll
You're not to catch one.
Yeah, well, she'll decide which one she wants to catch, and there's a real like the improv actor thing, the yes and. Just, yes, I hear that, and I'm gonna do this.
But I also can read the musicians. I read an audience. I can read a room. I know what songs I should pick if the energy isn't quite what I might have planned for. So if I'm in a situation very much like Danny was last night, where the musicians aren't of a certain caliber, then I know that I'm in a supportive role. I know that my job then is to make us both sound good. I don't just over sing to try to make them better, and I don't come down to their level. I just use another of my skills. And that skill is simply to blend and to amplify whatever it is that they do well. Mm-hmm. You know?
Oh my God, is that not great? Is that not brilliant? Like, okay, thank you. If we had more time, I know we could do this for an hour. Good. I do want to talk a little bit. Thank you, guys. Talk about a curveball and rolling with it. I appreciate that so much. So yeah, now I'm going to have to adapt a little bit, but the last statement that Bobby made about sort of not lowering one's standards, but being able to like step into it from a place of strength and call others higher is beautiful. And let's see, I'm rearranging everything in my head right now. Okay, the reason we're doing this is because we are approaching Election Day, and I'm trying to think, one of the things I like most about Unity, or that drew me to Unity 25 years ago, is that there are ways in which these spiritual principles that we believe get applied practically. So it's relevant to our everyday experience. So I've been trying to think, okay, if we're moving into this, what's likely to be a pretty divisive, kind of rancorous election season, how do we, as Unity Truth students, how do we apply what we know to the relationships that we have so that we can be a presence that will help connect rather than add to the divisiveness, right? Which led me to this book by David Brooks about how to know people. His assertion, and I totally believe it, is that the way we overcome divisiveness is through connection. That we need to be available to connect with others, even those whom we might disagree with. And the concept that he introduces today that we were just talking about, that applies so beautifully to music and accompaniments and solace and how music evolves and those kind of connections, it applies spiritually, politically, socially, relationship-wise. It's the same principles. And so this is from Myrtle, and she's obviously talking about it from kind of a religious perspective. Now keep in mind, this is from letters that she'd written, so this is probably the early 1900s, and it was a point at which unity by some was thought to be very heretical, and it's sort of how her approach to how she would deal with that kind of divisiveness or separation. I think it's beautiful. She says, from our experience, we find it wise not to talk too much about what we are discovering and using, except to those who come to us for it. We know that it's not wise or profitable to call attention to differences, not even in an effort to explain our point. Let me read that again and think about that next political conversation you're involved in. We know that it is not wise or profitable to call attention to differences, not even in an effort to explain our point. If we were to go to other churches or classes, we should endeavor to avoid points of difference or apparent contradictions. We should look for all points on which to agree and praise the other's faith and good works. We should talk on subjects that intuition made us to know others were interested in. Right? So it's about how we look for the common ground that we have. I think in some ways this is already happening socially. I've had a few conversations with folks in business settings and in social settings, and it's like, we're now at a point where it's like, we're just not going to talk about politics. Because we know that we might have an uncle or a colleague or a coworker on the other side of the room that's going to come down on the other side, so we just avoid it altogether. What I hear Myrtle saying is not so much avoid it altogether, just poop, but to look for the places of agreement, to find the places where actually we can connect, the strengths that people already have, like Bobby was saying. Find where it is in that musician of a different skill level that there is this resonance that you can still create this beautiful, harmonious kind of discussion. And in that resonance, the relationship builds. In that sort of finding common ground, we start to achieve a greater level of connection and being. Oh my gosh, this talk's going to be all over the place now, because that was a point I was making about 4 in. So let's sort of reel it in back to sort of unity's basic sort of principle, that there's one power and presence, right? That we're coming out of this, or we're moving into this election season with a recognition and an intention to hold to the truth that there is one presence and one power. That we are a part of that presence, and that so is everybody else. So are all beings. It's all this one sort of greater whole, that as we tap into what we know to be the source of that whole, love, this power to attract, harmonious, sort of the goodness that arises out of it. As we tap into that, then we can begin to demonstrate in a more perfect way the kinds of aspirations that we all hold for our lives and for our planet and for our country, right? As we can sort of stand in that place. And I think there's a mystical way that we can first kind of begin to approach that, right? We first need to remind ourselves, we need to be well equipped, well prepared when we go into these conversations, to know our oneness, to be confident of that, and not in a way that we're necessarily going to articulate, but a way that we feel, a way that arises out of our consciousness, to know that you are my brother, you are my sister, whoever's sitting across from me. And so one of the suggestions that David Brooks sort of, or one of the examples he brings, is about sort of the mystical connection that we have to nature, that in that there is, we can begin to sort of palpably feel and more powerfully express the kind of connection. And how many were outdoors yesterday? Did you get a chance to be outside? It is, I think, one of the most beautiful days I've ever experienced in Chicago. Now, maybe I'm in this weird euphoric bubble, I don't know, but it was truly astounding. I started the morning on an architectural tour of Evanston that was all about materials. So we talked about bricks. And the first thing I remember sort of being, common bricks that are on the sides of buildings in Chicago. I've always thought, they're okay. And the tour guide that was leading it was like, oh, these are Chicago common bricks. They arise out of Chicago. And the sort of weird geological transitions that have happened over evolution, that's the source of the weird colors that show up in these really inconsistent bricks that are so endemic to Chicago, right? I didn't know any of that. Like our evolution, everything about the terrain that we live in, the geology that we live in, is expressed in these bricks that are just kind of on the sides of the buildings. Then they have beautiful face bricks that are all consistently colored. But there's this sort of sense of how we experience, how we create, how we build, that it's all sort of reflected in the appearance and in how. So I'm starting out just marveling at bricks. That's how it started. And then that ended, and I went down by the lake shore, and I had been hearing from my Google alerts that there's these amazing waves down. They call it beach hazards, I think. I regard them as like beach beauty. Like those waves are incredible. And the quality and the color of the lake last night or yesterday with the brilliant blue skies, and then the big, huge, puffy clouds. But the weird thing is, usually down by the lake, clouds are moving. These big, puffy clouds, they were just sitting there. The movement was all happening right down at our level, like the wind swishing through the trees above me. You start to hear the sounds and the visualization of it, and it's just like, oh, this is incredible. And it was somewhere between, it wasn't cool, it wasn't warm, it was just perfect in my mind. It's like, it's Chicago at its best, or the North Shore at its best. And it sort of, I literally just sat down on a park bench, and that was my meditation for half an hour, just marveling at, the exceptionalism of that day and that combination of sort of environmental factors, and realizing that that's the same kind of diversity, the same kind of that happens in our lives every single day. And sometimes it's not maybe that visually apparent, but every single day sitting down on that park bench by the beach is going to have the same kind of power sort of coming together to create the wholeness that is our experience. There is a oneness that unites us as we become aware of that. Is that just crazy? Are you with me at all on this? It is a beautiful day, right? As we acknowledge that kind of beauty and that kind of connection, and remember that we're part of something greater, that's the kind of confidence that I think Bobby and Danny talk about when they bring, that's what they bring to a gig. That level of confidence and knowing that there is beauty and truth in every experience, and that this person across from me However our beliefs might differ, the person across from me is still a divine creation, part of the same wholeness that spins the globe and turns the sun. It's all one thing. So to immerse ourselves in that knowing about our oneness, so that the consciousness that we hold when we engage in these conversations really comes from a place where we can see their beauty, right? We can see beyond the differences and recognizing that there is much greater good for us to discover and to explore. Let's see. So that's the mystical piece. I want to talk about, and this comes out of the sort of the practical question that I was asking of Danny and Bobby, is there are ways in which we're striving for connection in every interaction, right? And Brooks suggests that we discount, or the power of just casual conversation is totally underrated. You know, I just told you all about the weather. Yeah, great. I don't know how spiritually deep that was. I hope you sort of felt a kind of connection about it. But in the conversation that we have about our day-to-day experiences, what did you do yesterday? In those conversations, we can learn a whole lot more if we're fully attuned and fully present to it, right? If we're coming from that grounded place, then casual conversation begins a way in which we start to build trust, right? As we sort of let go, because I found myself doing the opposite, right? Where you sit down and I want to know this person across from me. And you start digging too deep, too quick, and they're like, ooh, getting away from this. I did a little bit of that yesterday, you know, as we're walking around the tour, by different people, and you'd strike up conversations, and there were, you know, I could tell this one woman, I said, well, do you live in the neighborhood? And she was like, what do you want to know where I live for? You know, there's like so I had to do a little bit of backtracking, but to be kind of attuned to what's sort of an appropriate way to start to build trust and connection. And in those casual conversations, as we're truly mindful about the impact that our questions might be having, or that our attitude or our demeanor might be having, then we start to create a deeper sense of connection that's going to allow us to build a trust that I think helps to bring together rather than to separate or distract. Does that make sense? So, and there's a lot of nonverbal in that too, right? I mean, she didn't specifically come back to me like, well, what do you want to know? Why answer that, you know? But I could tell just that she was just a little, skeptical about my interest. And it wasn't until I could sort of pull back from, you know, I'm not here to date you or follow you home, or, you know, there's like, how is it that we can just have a lovely conversation on this beautiful day? So the nonverbals are every bit as important sometimes as the verbals. And in those casual connections, we can begin to build a sense of connection that it feels like we have lost so much since the pandemic, since we've been isolated at home, that sort of the art of togetherness, of gathering has waned. And we, who understand and believe in the oneness of all things, are, I think, uniquely positioned to be able to demonstrate that more powerfully. Let's see. The other thing I would, 2 more points and then we'll get to meditation. How am I doing on time? We might make it 1 more point. 11, 12. Okay. 2 more points and brief meditation. I just don't want to stop talking. So the first of those points, and this is, you know, and it's not, unity people aren't the only ones doing this. I want to make that clear. Like, we have plenty of allies out there. And one of the most powerful, I think, is reflected in the work of Brene Brown. A lot of people know Brene Brown, Daring to be Great, or Daring Greatly, or Daring something. That was her first book. She has this beautiful distinction that she makes between sympathy and empathy. Right? And she talks about sort of, and it's a way of accompanying, right? That she talks about, or there's a little kind of illustrated graphic, you can look it up, just search Brene Brown, sympathy, empathy. But it's this person or this character who's walking, and the other character that she's walking with falls into a deep, deep hole. And Brown describes the difference between empathy and sympathy as this, that in empathy, you see what's happened with the other person, and you're willing to climb down and sort of be in that experience with them, Empathy is like walking alongside, holding hands, as Bobby sort of described. It's really, there's an emotional kind of sharing that happens. It takes a level of vulnerability for me being able to go to a place when I've felt sort of isolated or in a hole or apart from. I have to be able to go there, to walk with, to accompany in a way that's empathic. So it's a place that asks more of us, but it's also a place that has much richer rewards in terms of building connection. Sympathy, on the other hand, I love this. She describes as like walking along and the character drops down and Sympathy's like, oh, looks really dark down there. How you doing? Munch, munch, munch. You want a sandwich? Like Sympathy is sort of, it's sort of an acknowledgement, but it actually increases separation. It's like, I think it's actually a reflection of our own unwillingness not to look at that part of ourselves, right? My own reluctance to look at a shadow piece or something that might require me to really feel a feeling that is uncomfortable or unpleasant. Empathy requires that we go there. So practicing empathy is a beautiful, beautiful piece. And I would say one of the most beautiful examples we have of this biblically is on the road to Emmaus. Everybody know this story? This story is described late in the chapter of Luke, the Gospel of Luke. And it's after Jesus has died, been crucified, and is resurrected, right? So 2 of the disciples, not like the 12 disciples we know, but 2 other disciples, students, were walking to Emmaus, which was about 7 miles from Jerusalem. 2 of them were walking, and they're really consumed with sadness and the events that have taken place, and they're really trying to make sense of it. So they're in a lot of distress and pain, and they're walking, and they're back and forth talking about it, and Jesus, the resurrected Jesus, sort of steps in. Now, they don't recognize him. They don't see him. And so Jesus is just there. This is what I mean by accompanying, just there with them, and inquires, what's going on? You seem sad. What's happening? And what ensues, and it takes up the whole chapter takes, I don't know, about 30 verses. And what's interesting is like the first 20 verses, I didn't count them, so don't hold me to this, but you get the point, right? The majority of the passage is really about these 2 disciples recounting the story of what's most heartfelt for them. And Jesus, who could have fixed the whole thing, right? Well, hey, guys, I'm here. What are you worried about? You know, that could have been his response. And yet what he was doing is walking with them, I would think, empathically, like sharing sort of what their experience was and accompanying them along this journey to Emmaus. Rather than stepping in, and that's the same is true for us. Like as we are accompanying someone, there are a couple of approaches that we might have, or a couple of tendencies that might get in the way. The first is, as they're telling their story, we're so caught up in our own sort of egoic that it's like, oh, well, you know, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I had that too. And we start to tell them our story. We know exactly what they're talking about, and it becomes about us rather than about them. So that's a place to watch for, that rising up of ego. And the other place is when it's like, more responsive. You're sort of listening, but it's from a place of anxiety, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What can I say here that's going to fix things? How am I going to respond to this? What possibly? And we're so off busy in our heads that there's no accompanying happening. So those, I think, are the 2 largest sort of flags to watch for in our own efforts to accompany. Watch for sort of ego rising up or anxiety rising up, and notice it and quiet and turn back to sort of full attention, to accompanying with, to listening to watching for the nonverbals. Yeah? So, all of that to say, I believe that as we move into, and not just sort of electioneering kind of things, but what we're wanting to do is rebuild a greater sense of connection. You know, you might still want to be out involved in rallies and political stuff, but I think probably the more powerful way for us to show up in those situations, which are totally appropriate, totally good ways of participating in sort of civic life. But we want to be approaching those and entering those from a place of a deep consciousness in the oneness that we have and a deep desire to create greater connection. So accompanying, I think, is a really wise way to do that. All right, so let's prepare now for a time of meditation. as we affirm our own capacity to accompany others.
When I pray, I feel my heart go deeper, my heart go deeper into my God. When I pray, I feel my heart go deeper, my heart go deeper into my God. Right here, right now, right where I am, I pray. Right here, right now, right where I am, I pray.
As we move into this time of quiet reflection, we're going to take a little bit different approach today. Rather than sort of focusing on breath or your physical body, I'm going to ask you to affirm just a few positive thoughts. We begin by recognizing that there is one presence and one power active in our lives. And in the universe, it's a power for good, a power for love. As we center ourselves in that loving goodness now, I invite you to hold in mind these thoughts. Direct them first toward yourself. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be at peace. May I live with ease. Again, there are 4 statements. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be at peace. May I live with ease. I invite you to hold those intentions in mind and heart for yourself. Find a rhythm for reciting those affirmations to yourself that fits you. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be at peace. May I live with ease. And so grounded in this intention for ourselves, I invite you now to hold those same intentions for a friend. Perhaps it's someone who's in some distress or who's facing some challenge. And we just change the phrasing a little bit to may you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be at peace. May you live at ease. Again, hold those thoughts in whatever rhythm seems most appropriate for your spirit now, as we send that loving kindness out to a friend. Breathing in, I invite us one more time to hold the same intention, the same truth for all beings. So the phrasing is, may all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be at peace. May all beings live with ease. And so now, as we bring this time of meditation to a close, we affirm that we have everything needed to accompany others well, that we might be a source of kindness and harmony and truth, simply by our being. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. So this is the time in our service when we share our tithes and our offerings. Let's see. So I invite you just to, I had a whole speech around this, but I'm not going to do it. Mostly because I promised Danny, he has another gig right after this, and I promised him we would be out by 11:30. So we may be singing the peace song a cappella. But just know that as we are mindful of the needs of others, as we are mindful of the ways in which we can support others, support this community, financially if possible today, that would be delightful. And just know that as we give from a space of really affirming abundance and truth, and that all needs are met, that truly we begin to express that divine more fully. So let's speak together our prosperity declaration, and I'm going to say let's skip the little song after this. So together, our prosperity declaration. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Okay, I think you're up now. Announcements.
Well, I just want to say, you musicians, and so is Kurt, are terrific listeners to each other. And all you have to do is have a little talent in each one of you and look out, because you're great. And you listen to everything, Kurt. Way to go. Thank you again, and the live stream, see they are working over there, and everybody present has blessed us. If you are watching on Zoom, and we want to remind you that you're invited to stay on Zoom after the service ends for a group discussion time. So it might be a good one today, okay? There's going to be a Grateful Voices choir that will resume their rehearsals this Monday, September 9th. The choir generally rehearses every Monday evening at 7 p.m. in the down here, I think it is? Yes, okay. And anyone who can carry a tune is welcome to join. The World Day of Prayer. Join us as we kick off Unity's annual World Day of Prayer with a special outdoor prayer labyrinth walk. I've done it. These are a lot of fun, by the way. We'll meet at St. Scholastica Monastery on Chicago's north side on that ridge in Chicago at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, November 11th. That's November 11th, okay. Well, it says no.
That's my fault. It's this Wednesday.
So we got it now, right? It's September 11th, okay, because it seemed logical coming. All right. This event is free to join, but registration is necessary. You can register using the QR code or by visiting unityonthenorthshore.org. The theme for this year's World Day of Prayer is Moving Mountains. Heavy, okay. Now, Jasmine's going to come up here and give us an announcement about the
Hello. Good morning. I am just here to announce our theme for our annual fundraising gala this year is Carnival. Yay! Yes. So start planning your costumes and outfits now. And anything goes, truly. You can dress up really fancy. You can dress in a masquerade mask if you want. But we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have it here in our building again. We've got live music with a wonderful band. We've got incredible catering for dinner with a Brazilian caterer. So it is going to be so much fun. Tickets are now on the website. But mostly I want you to save the date. We are going to have a live auction. So if you have any kind of a wonderful idea for a live auction gift that you might be able to donate, please let me know, especially anything experiential, so unique experiences or vacation packages or rentals. We're trying to build up a wonderful live auction for that event to help raise us our funds. This is our major fundraiser for the year, so everybody please come. We did basically sell out of tickets last year, so I anticipate that will happen again this year because we have limited space here, so we can't just keep going forever and ever. But hopefully next year we'll be in a bigger space and we'll have more options, and we can do something even more fabulous next year. But yeah, come join us this year. And that is it. So let's all do our peace song and prayer for protection, please. Please stand.
Please join me in the prayer of protection on the screen. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. Our God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence.